I'm going to talk about who owns. It is a topic that's very dear to me, especially after becoming a mom. And yeah, I've spent years working in DeFi, so since 2019, and bringing more sovereignty to finance. And now I joined the project dEdu, and I would love to bring more sovereignty to education. Maybe quick question to start, like hands up, who has a degree here in the room? And now keep your hands up if it really reflects what you know today. So, okay. I don't see any hands up anymore. And I think that's really the gap between what the paper says and what you actually know. That's the conversation I would like to address today. So your degree basically says that you're qualified, standardized, accredited, and approved by a committee. It's like a signal to the world that the person sat through the curriculum, passed the tests, and you got the paper. But what you actually know, that's what built you through curiosity, passion, experience, and through deciding to go deeper on something that was dear to you or that you want to become very good at. So that gap, what the paper says and what you actually know, that's not a personal failure. I think that's a systematic failure, and that's something I would like to address. For most modern history, education optimized for one thing: retention, memorizing the formula, memorizing data, and reproducing them on a command. So the problem is not that memorization, for me, I think memorization was kind of a proxy for understanding, and that's a bad one. We rewarded students from remembering things and not for using them. We tested recall and not thinking. And here what's actually neuroscience actually tells us, the brain was never designed to be a storage device. It was designed to predict patterns, match, and adapt. What separates experts from novices isn't how much they've memorized, it's how rich their knowledge is connected. Meaning sticks, arbitrary information doesn't. And the brain discards what it doesn't use. Rote learning fights that process. Because today any smartphone can retrieve any fact in seconds, and the internal premise has collapsed, and most curriculum haven't adjusted to that new reality. So it doesn't mean that nothing has to be remembered and memorized anymore. It's not really exactly like that, but some knowledge needs to become automatic, not because it's worth remembering for its own sake, but because it's the foundation that makes real thinking possible. Because a developer who has to look up basic syntax every line can really build an architectural system, obviously. And when the basics are automatic, the mind is not free to do the rule thing. And I think, because the real question was never, what do you know? It was always, what can you do with it, and who do you become in the process of learning? And I think one problem that is huge, especially not so much in Europe, but in the US, it's US students' loan debt has passed to 1.7 trillion, and the average graduates carries around 37K at the end of their studies. And they take on that debt before they know what they want to do, before they know what the job market is going to look like, for a credential that it's increasingly decouped from the skills employers actually want. And for me, that's not education. It's kind of a financial product wrapped in prestige. And I mean, in Europe, it's a little bit different. Universities are heavily subsidized or free, but even here, the credential still gatekeeps access, right? So the problem isn't always the price tag, it's who decides who gets in and what gets taught by the universities. And research shows actually that 16% of US students have already changed their major because of AI, and 47% of students have already seriously thought about changing their major because of AI. And I think AI really exposed how much of the educational system is broken, and what was built on very weak foundations already. And I see four issues here that we have. I mean, the people who know the most are often not necessarily inside universities or schools. I mean, the best DeFi developers, they're probably in rooms like that or in spaces like this. And they should be the ones teaching more practical things. And right now, there is not a lot of decentralized infrastructure for them to teach what they know to students. And I think that's something that should be changed. Because right now, the institutions capture all, they capture the value, and you teach under their roof, and your output becomes their asset. And the problem number 2 is the reputation accrues to the brand, not to the teacher itself. Because even like the best professor at a mid-tier school is less on the market than a mediocre one at the prestige one. And that's not learning economics, that's reputation economics. And it has nothing to do with the quality of what you actually know, depending where you went to study. And problem 3 is there's not much decentralized infrastructure for outside experts, so you have to find ways to go through gatekeepers to actually teach your students. And the number 4 one is really the one I would like to sit with, which is sovereignty. Governance decide what knowledge counts. They control the curriculum, they approve the teachers, but they also control who gets access in the first place. Which students get in, which community gets resourced, which languages, which histories, which perspective make it into the classroom. And a student in the wrong country, with the wrong postcode, the wrong economic bracket, they don't get the same education. They get a vision and version of the system the system decides for them. And that's not neutral. That is a political choice and about whose knowledge matters and whose future gets funded. And you're here at ETH Prague, and you already know how it feels to build outside that premise. And I think this is kind of the same fight, but for knowledge. Because I think, for example, for finance, we have done a lot already to decentralize and bring more sovereignty to that space. But I think for education, that's a bigger elephant in the room because it's very heavily centralized. And to decentralize that more, it's a huge challenge. And I think that's where it gets interesting because I don't have all the answers yet for that. So who gets to decide who counts as learning and who owns that decision? So we'll leave that now in the room for a bit and we get back to that afterwards. And as I mentioned, we have done this for finance. We want to do it for education. And I joined dEdu, which is a school governed as a DUNA. It's a decentralized uncorporate nonprofit association in Wyoming, so it's not a company, not a state, it's community owned. It's a quite novel legal structure, and actually the founder of the project, maybe some of you know him, it's Han from Autonomous, so he's quite involved into the legal space and decentralizing legal things. And what dEdu wants to do is, so we want to have teachers, anyone who knows anything valuable can teach. There is no gatekeeping, no censorship, no approval. So the teachers set the price, the schedule, the syllabus, and your track record is your credential. Then we're going to have of course, you can sign up as a student, so you can learn, fund the courses you actually want, with teachers you actually want to sign up with, and with the teachers who are accredited for it. And of course, there's also a way to earn something. I mean, we're going to probably have kind of a certificate. It's probably represented with NFTs. It's not fully designed yet because we kind of need a certificate to prove, okay, what has a student learned. And so there will be some kind of NFT on completion involved as well. And the vision also goes real life. So because certain things, they can only be taught in a classroom. So the founder actually is already securing a spot in a physical campus in Florida, south of Miami. As I said, like this project is very early stage and it's being built in public. So conversations like today are the ones that will shape what it will become. And this is not at all a finished product that I'm presenting here today. So I'm looking forward to hearing inputs of how this can be done best. And yeah, maybe you like to put things in the room. Is there anyone in the room that is a teacher or teaches something? Yes. What are you teaching?
I was a teacher, a music teacher for many years.
Music teacher, okay. So did you also study something related to music?
Yes?
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So did your degree reflect anything that you do nowadays? So it's still quite connected, or?
Not in any way. Coming here in my program, yes.
Okay. Anyone else here, teacher or wanting to become a teacher? No. I actually find it funny because sometimes how high life goes, because, for example, I studied banking and finance. I worked a lot of time in the financial world, corporate world, in audit, then in central banking. So ironically, I worked for the Bank for International Settlements, then jumped to DeFi, did a lot of work in DeFi. And if you ask me, okay, my degree and what I do now today, I'm actually a teacher, but in a very different area. I'm actually a flying pole teacher. So it's funny sometimes how things go. So I would love to have some of you signing up, maybe if you want to learn something or become a teacher in the platform. We're gonna have our first educational cohort somewhere in May, June with a group of teachers, and usually how we're gonna do it, we're gonna approach schools and we're gonna basically search the students for you, and whenever you want to teach something, the platform is there. And also if you have some questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you so much, Sasha, for the speech. So does anyone have any questions?
So thank you for the talk. I agree with basically everything about the theory you said. And my question is, how is this platform different from platforms such as Udemy, if you know them, and these online course platforms?
Well, first of all, Udemy is very centralized, and they basically set the price for their teachers, and they also take quite a big cut of what the teacher earns. So we want to change that. Of course, it shouldn't be like that. The teacher should get the majority or everything of what they actually teach, because they bring the knowledge, they create the courses. So that's the first difference, and yeah, I think that's the biggest one.
Okay, thanks.
And also, we want to do things a little bit different in terms. Also, I mean, in Udemy, for example, everything is quite centralized. They use Google Meets also and stuff like that. So we hope we can improve that a little bit in terms of decentralization.
Okay.
Anyone else? Yeah, sure.
So first of all, amazing talk and incredible topic, not very often heard. I'm curious, what's the age group of the targeted audience for now?
I think we don't have a defined age group. It's for everyone that wants to learn something. So it can be for any age, depending of what kind of teacher we have available and what's going to be taught on the platform. And I mean, of course, for smaller kids, there's probably in the real world, teaching would make more sense than online teaching, especially at a young age. But I guess if it's like a very young age, it also depends on the parents, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Anyone else? No? Okay. Thank you for the talk.
There's one more hand up.
Oh, sure.
Thank you for the talk, really interesting. I think a lot about curiosity when it comes to learning. How do you think about encouraging curiosity instead of in the current school system where it's mostly, questions are not really necessarily welcomed?
Very good question, and the difficult one as well, I guess. Well, I think it's really letting, I mean, it depends a bit maybe on the age group, but really letting kids or students explore, taking different courses. I mean, for example, I signed up for banking and finance at the time, and if I maybe had the choice to jump into different courses, that would maybe help, so that you just get a broader insight into what you could learn and maybe what sparks your curiosity.
Anyone else? One more?
So another part is if it is online based, how how do you think about still meeting in person and maybe learning more easily if it's not only through screens or like different, I mean, there's many different types of learners, right? How does it connect to in-person learning and meeting, and what about that element of the education?
Yes, I mean, in-person learning is definitely very important, I think, and that's why also the dEdu school is going to have an in-real world space in South Miami to start with. But I think also when this expands to other spaces, there should be hubs available where teachers and students can meet, because, I mean, it's just a different learning experience also when this is done in a physical space. And as I mentioned also in the talk, some things they can only be taught in person, I think.
Okay, thank you for your speech. I deeply appreciate and respect some kind of learning, yeah, decentralized way. But have a question. In the time of artificial intelligence, where is point of verification your teacher as verification of their knowledge and capability, right? And same time, if you give a student any certification or any improvement of their knowledge, how you control it? Because anyone with AI and $10 can easily impersonate teacher. Like I can easily go make a test and I have physical teacher with PhD, but I doesn't know at all because it's right AI for me. And I'm quite curious how you work with it. Well, decentralized, because centralized have a restriction, laws, and also how you does it in decentralized way.
Very good question, thank you. Well, I think the gatekeeping of the teachers, it's especially with AI, becomes very interesting, of course. And I mean, our platform currently, there is no gatekeeping at all. I mean, even an AI agent could become a teacher at this point. So I think reputation will play a big role in that. And for example, also if we work with, for example, if it's online teaching, and maybe it's even connected with wallets, so we see histories of who that teacher is or the reputation. So I think reputation markets will become very important to see who are these teachers.
Okay.
Because, I mean, even nowadays, I mean, you could fake a teacher certificate, and I could just create one with AI, and maybe some school would believe I'm a teacher. So I think that problem is not only just online, but also physical.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Because like it can be some different in mentality in the United States, because I'm from Ukraine, right? Live in Europe, and in our country, like we were lazy. Honestly, people like we love to cheat. So it's very important point of future, because people very love to lazy things, doesn't learn at all and impersonate, and it's affect very much in any ways, like new developers, security with AI, and other way. So I was like curious how you work with it. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
very good question. I mean, also on the student side, right? I mean, cheating is involved, I think, in all university and all schools, that's there. But then at the end, if they get hired or they work somewhere, I think it becomes very obvious that knowledge is either here or it's not there. So I think that will be catched at some point as well.
You also mentioned you have an agreement with some on-site campus, so I was curious if you have any models that would, regarding the physical teaching, compared to a classical model where kids or people are closed in classrooms and they just listen, they don't really learn anything through their curiosity, they do not drive what they learn as much. So if you have any models that how it could work differently, promoting more curiosity in the physical space.
Good question. I don't have an answer for that yet, to be honest, because we don't have a physical space yet. But I would envision also there that there is lots of way to explore, and not just someone preaching something and people sitting there and learning. So just giving students a lot of options to be and explore in different spaces and different courses.
Thank you.
So we have a minute for one more question, if you guys have any. No? Okay. Then can we get a round of applause for the speech?